Joining me now, two of our legal analysts who are both former federal prosecutors, Jeffrey Toobin and Laura Coates. She's also a former D.C. Assistant U.S. Attorney for Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. Laura, I mean, it's obviously just sickening, unfathomable, and to broadcast it live on Facebook and have one of the women talking about why she's not getting enough likes while it's actually happening. It's
so shocking to think that somebody would first do this and then try to, tell the world that they've done it and almost, glorify their actions. And from a human perspective, of course, you're horrified to see this. But from a prosecutor's perspective as well, this is great evidence you need to use. It's very difficult and oftentimes to prove hate crimes. You've got to prove bias and the motive and your intent here. Here, it's very clear. It's in front of you because you have this sort of lack of remorse. You have this very clear motive that's actually put before us.
And Jeff, the hate crimes, it's not a separate category. I mean, it basically just adds to a criminal act, adds to a potential sentence, right?
Right. It's an enhancement. This would be a crime regardless of the racial or disability motive. So it's not like they would get away if they didn't also charge hate crimes. It is basically a judgment by the state legislature that says, look, we think that crimes motivated by bias are even worse than crimes that are motivated by jealousy or just anger or craziness. But it certainly will mean that these four are likely to get longer sentences than if this Facebook video did not exist.
Laura, is this a slam dunk? I mean, based on what the police and prosecutors have said?
I mean, from our own eyes, we're looking at it and saying we absolutely see a crime and there's a hate crime element to it. But there's a misconception, Anderson, people have when it comes to hate crimes. There is this misdirection or misbelief that you have to be a racial minority to be as a victim of that crime for it to really be a true slam dunk. And that although the theory behind an enactment of legislation to protect racial minorities, when there is a white victim, people have the misconception that it won't be as enforced as vigorously.
You're saying jurors might view it differently than if the victim was African American and the torturers were white.
They might, but here, of course, we see a case where that obviously should not be the case, and people should be as astounded and disgusted, regardless of who the victim is, because just because a legislation or a law is meant to protect a particular group, it does not immunize that group from prosecution if they commit a crime.
The fact that they're using, racial terminology, they're talking about white people, Donald Trump, view him as representing everybody who supported Donald Trump. Is that what is the clearest evidence of a hate crime? I mean, otherwise, otherwise, Laura, it could just be an attack on, somebody with, mental impairment.
Yes, but the mental impairment also is a classification in Chicago for a hate crime. So the combination of both, people have to understand. To be a hate crime, you need not have one singular motive. It could be also a non-bias related thing, and you also have a hate element as well. So it could also be because of what his mental disability may be, as well as his race, and the combination, most assuredly, is a hate crime.
Jeff, there's certainly going to be... go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't think a jury is ever going to get this case. This case is going to be pled out. It is so horrific. Any defense lawyer is going to want to keep this from a jury. So I just think, given the evidence in this case,
what sort of punishment? I mean, if there's a plea bargain, what sort of punishment is likely?
Well, it is going to be many. It is going to be a substantial number of years in prison. I think 10 is not out of the question. Fortunately, the victim here survived and is not going to have permanent injury, so it appears. So I think that will limit the punishment to a certain extent. But given the magnitude, given the publicity, given just how evil this crime is, it could be as long as 10 years, I think.
We'll follow it closely, no doubt. Jeff, thanks very much. Laura, thanks so much.
Thank
Great
you.
to have you with us. Just ahead, more.